If you're feeling triggered in any way, the first thing I encourage you to do is to breathe. Slow down and breathe through the emotions. Then ask yourself if the thing you are telling yourself is really true. These are the words of wisdom and guidance from our guest today, Padma Ali. My dear friend Padma helps high performing women find their inner and outer alignment that helps them find balance and time for important things in their life, as well as increase their earning potential. And Padma is much more than a life, relationship, and business coach who loves working with women and helping them step into their power intentionally and transform their vision and life of their business and dreams. She is also a wife and a dedicated mother, an extraordinary entrepreneur who has mastered her technique as an energy alignment coach to help high performing females and executives harmonize their career and life aspirations for greater fulfillment through her unique neuropsychic, I had to practice that a few times,
Oh, you just can call it,
neuropsychic
you can
and
just call it
energy
new.
blueprint. And she's recently launched her new podcast, Create Your Vibrant Life. And she has done just that for herself, and she is helping do that for others. Everyone, please, Padma, welcome you to the podcast. It's so wonderful to have you.
Oh, thank you, Ellie. You're amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. And for those of you watching live or the rebroadcast, Padma and I had the great honor of being brought together by the universe through our mutual coach, James Wedmore. I know you've heard that before. And I sat right next to her. I would say we sat next to each other, but I sat right next to her at a live event. And I remember having this moment, this feeling of this warmth and this energy just vibrating off. I mean, it was literally osmosis coming through my body. And I also smelled something familiar. And I asked her, I said, what's this scent? And she says, oh, wear frankincense. And I think she had pulled out the oil. I wear frankincense. Just, it really helps me with grounding myself. And I wear frankincense too. I even have some on right now on some of my touch points just to ground and put my energy at ease. And it even helps me sleep better at night. But I knew right then and there we would be besties.
I love that story. It's just so amazing.
It's true. It's true. Well, Padma, enough about me because most people know about me already. But what I would love for you to do is just to share your story and your journey with our audience so they can see a little bit of who you are.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. And it is so true, Ellie. Like there was just your presence. I'm sure your audience has seen that. Like it's just so warm and I just loved connecting with you. It was such a brief moment, but it left such an impact. And that says so much about you. It's such an honor. It's such an honor and pleasure to have connected with you and have continued that journey since then, right? Like I love social media for that aspect.
Yes, and the social media has kept us connected. And the truth be told, a little secret that not many people know is that when I do go to events, when I meet people, I'll often take a picture of them, not just to do the selfie, but because I will make a note at the end of the day, people I would love to interview or collaborate with. And you are one of those people.
Oh, I'm so honored. So honored. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, what actually, obviously, I would ask you what brought you to the event, but I have a feeling that your story starts quite a bit before that.
Yes. Yes. My professional and my personal story are so intertwined. I grew up in India and all I could remember was just having so much in my childhood. I mean, this is how the story weaves, right? Like if your own personal stuff make you choose a career path. And for me, it was like I was ridden with anxiety. That's all I could remember of my childhood. And that brought me to wanting to study psychology. I was like, all right, I'm going to master this. I'm going to study this and learn how to not be anxious and not be depressed. And it was a very rough journey at that time. So I got into psychology, and I was very driven, like all the clients I served. I'm very driven. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go do this. And within a couple of years, I was licensed, and I just did all the right things. And yet it left a void. It left a very big void because something was unfulfilled. Something still felt unfulfilling. And what that was the universe saying, hey, dude, you're way too controlling. Drop the control. And I wasn't listening. So it resulted in me getting very sick with an autoimmune for the longest time. It's no longer part of my identity. It's no longer there. But all that journey opened up so many different avenues for me, like opened up how I could serve. It really brought to the forefront like how I could be in the world and what could I provide. And sometimes you have to go through those things in order to get the mechanisms of serving and helping others. And that's what has led me to right now. My life looks nothing like that. Nothing. And but here's how the evolution happened, right? Like I'm still a licensed therapist, but I also see that it hasn't completely served my clientele in the way that I wanted to. It's something felt incomplete even in that, which is what made me develop my methodology of, I call it the New You Blueprint in short.
I love it. The New You Blueprint. That's wonderful. Now, so how would you, so you said you developed this methodology. What did you do? Because you said that it didn't work before,
Yeah.
but I imagine that the clients that you saw before may have got quite a lot from you.
Yes.
You know, they benefited from your particular insight. From what I gather and just my experience with you, you are very empathic.
Yes.
And you can probably feel your clients and connect with them in this way, which is also at a different level that many other people can't do if they're not open to that empathic part or they just don't quite have it. And now, what point did you feel that something was there a repeat pattern you were seeing in your clients that you just felt like something is not going where I want it to go here? Like they're still why can't I get them unstuck out of this?
Yeah. So my clients would get the results, but what I would notice, it was not the work I was doing. It was something happening under the radar, meaning nothing that I was speaking was actually getting through to them, but there was this energetic exchange happening. One of the things I don't talk about very much, which I absolutely have to starting now, like I've been getting that nudge from the universe to start talking about it, is the energy healing aspect. I also studied energy healing for the longest time. And, you know, like your yoga practice and your connection with that realm, like it's been such a healing aspect of mine. Like that's how I healed myself, using the energy healing techniques and things that I've learned. But more than that, it's like being an open channel for the universe, for the divine to work through me. And that was what was causing the transformation. And so I was like, all right, it's not just about the brain aspect. That doesn't do it all, because we can sit here and like do our affirmations, like chant affirmations all day long. It doesn't work. There's something that needs to shift in, like from the roots. And that's what the energy healing came about. Like it really started to shift things. And I was like, oh, this is what was happening. I couldn't put it in words for the longest time. It was just more like the sense of like, oh, something is happening through me for this person. And I can't take ownership for that, right? Like it's something happening for that person, very unique to that person. But for most people to understand, I'm just calling it energy healing, but it's more like I'm literally a channel for that person. Wow. But here's the key, right? Like when we have to work with the mind, we have to clear all of these energetic imprints. But the key aspect is also to take actions. We can't sit and om all day, right? Like you have to still take actions for things to happen for you. But the actions...
I agree 1000%. I just had this conversation with my husband the other day.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about that.
It was, you can't just sit there and keep repeating the words. You actually have to do something to make it happen.
Right.
You need to take the steps forward. Repeating the words just brings this thing that you're seeking to achieve to the forefront of your mind so that other things are not taking its place that are
Right.
in automatic.
Exactly. Yes.
Love
Yes.
it.
But what I was seeing with my clients and even with myself prior to all of this was the actions were like, frenzied, like we just like have to do something, right? Because when you
Mm-hmm.
feel anxious, I don't know if you've had that experience or
Mm-hmm.
if people have had, like when you feel discomfort, we want to get away from it. So we do
Yes.
random things to get away from that. Either we like go and charge like a bull doing something that doesn't actually get you to where you want to go. But when we do this work, taking that action from that place of your inner wisdom, it's so much more potent, so much more powerful. It gets you to where you want to go. So that is how this all came about. And the words that the blueprint, I just came up with that in the last year or so. It's like brand new because I
Amazing.
couldn't put words to this. I was like, how do I describe what I do? I don't know. It feels like it's happening through me. But our human mind needs something to hang on, like understand on an intellectual level. So I was like, all right, this kind of summarizes what I do. So that's how this all came about.
You're absolutely right that, and we in our world that where we grow up and in how we're conditioned, we need to be able to define things in a way that our society understands. But sometimes when you talk about have created this new blueprint, in my mind, I feel like, well, this is you going beyond the societal norm and saying, I'm going to give it a name, but it's going to be a new concept and idea that the world is going to learn to understand and grow,
Yeah.
which is where the leaders of today are taking humanity and the world in a positive direction. That's just my personal belief. But but I'm hoping that's what you feel too. Like when
I
you
do.
picked it, when you found it, you said, okay, this.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. That's exactly what it felt like. It felt like this was handed to me by the universe, and I'm just going to use that.
Amazing. Amazing. So, so as, because at the time I met you, this wasn't a year ago.
Mm.
And prior to that, like you've been on TV shows in your area, our famous little Bostonian. Probably people recognize you in the street. It's not like you've just been sitting around there in your office seeing clients.
No.
You've seemed to be very comfortable with pushing through the horizon. You have your YouTube channel. You get asked to speak, and so obviously, like you said, you had these things that when you were younger that you were growing up with, having an autoimmune disease. Those are the kinds of things that can put us in fear and are afraid
Yes.
to get out there and do all those things that you're doing, like to share your message and make a difference. Like, when did you start realizing that you're wow, I'm so far past that. I'm doing this. Like, what is that experience for you?
I remember the first time I did a live,
Mm-hmm.
I was terrified. I was just terrified. I was like, what am I doing? This is so weird. So I held my newborn daughter, my arms just for like comfort.
No one's going to say anything mean if I have a baby in my hand.
Yeah, and that was like less than 3 years ago. So despite having, a therapy practice, right? Like I felt so constricted by the therapy license. I couldn't see people all over the world. I wanted to reach a larger audience. And so that's what was like, you know what? I need to make my business global. And I was already a certified coach for the past 15 years, long before coaching became, everybody
A
was
thing.
doing it. Yes.
I got my certificate.
Yeah. So but that drive, like to serve the world in a larger way, that's what made me just do that. But it was hilarious. It's still there on my Facebook page, my first live video. I'm holding this child, this newborn baby, and I'm like rocking her because I was trying to rock myself.
I love that you admit that.
It's so
I
clear,
love
like you see my face, and that I'm like, you look, I have so much compassion for her and so much admiration that she's like, all right, she's going to do it. Right. Like, and that's what I want to encourage people. Like fear, you and I were talking right before we started. fear has a place. Fear has a place for all of us, but not when it comes to doing things in the world that's going to make a difference.
Yeah.
Right. And that's overcoming that and just doing it. And the more you do it, more practice you get. We never, I love the analogy of I watch my children riding a bicycle right now, right? They're very young. But in the beginning, they didn't know how to do it. They would fall off and I had to run behind them. And then finally, not suddenly they're taken off. They don't need me to hold. And that's exactly how it is. The more we practice, the more we do it, the brain goes, oh, this is not as scary. I don't need to hold that baby anymore. Nobody's going to, even if they say something, it's fine.
You just realize that nothing, that the what one person is going to say, because we do have the tendency to focus on that one comment or that one
Yes.
person. There's so many other people that they're so grateful to hear what you have to say.
Yes.
And most people, as a speaking coach and a speaker, like most people are rooting for you.
Yes. Yes.
Most people that see you speak or hear what you have to say or stop to watch you, they stopped for a reason. They're rooting for you. They want to see you succeed.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And that's definitely, whoever needs to find you is going to find you.
Mm-hmm.
And they will not care whether you have a newborn baby or holding that as a as a shield or not. Like they're going to come and find you and they will follow you because your message resonates with them and it makes a difference for them.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. It's so now that you mention it, I do want to go back just cuz and not to dig too much into the
No.
past because we are working from the future, but there was something you said in your podcast. The I was just listening to your podcast. It's amazing, everyone. You should check it out. It's You said something in the old and new you when you were talking about the old and new you and sharing that story and journey. You said this incredible term I'd never heard before, the lost overachiever.
Yeah.
And I imagine that you get a lot of, because you work with women who are that like want to make that high impact, they're high achievers. I'm sure you do come across some what you this imagines to me to be the lost overachiever. Could you sort of explain this or maybe share an example from someone you've worked with or even your own?
Yeah. All the women who come to see me, and actually most people, not just women,
Mm-hmm.
who come to see me use these specific terms like, I don't know who I am anymore. I want to
Yet they're
find myself.
successful.
Yeah, they're very successful. On
Okay.
the surface, on the
Mm-hmm.
outside, they have accolades and they're like really high level directors and they've done so much. And then there's the sense of like VP level. And then they're like, I don't know who I am.
Mm.
I don't know who I am. I don't know what I am. I don't know what I want. But this gives me fulfillment, but it's not all that I want. And they have a family, they have very successful lives, but there's a sense of like, I've been doing things in autopilot. But
Mm.
that used to be me too, like, like getting my license. Like as soon as I got out of graduate school, I have 2 graduate degrees and like this like crazy over, and
2 graduate
obviously,
degrees.
yeah, 2 graduate,
Two.
and like attracts like. I've attracted people like that.
I have a graduate degree. I want to get my PhD. I mean, maybe we'll see. I haven't decided yet, but we'll see.
Right.
I
But
mean,
it's
but
coming.
it is that high achiever thing that you think if I get this, then
Yes.
it's
Yeah. There's this feeling of like, if I just do this, I'm going to feel better, or I'm going to go, this is what I'm supposed to do. And then suddenly they wake up and go, what am I? Where am I? What am I doing? Is this what I want? I don't even know. And then they're like, oh, I know what I want, but I don't even know how to get there. And is it okay for me to want that? That's the lost. They're kind of like this sense of lost, and they're stressed, and they just know they don't like what they have.
yeah. And I think I would be lying if I said I've never been in that place. I have been in that place before in my 20s. And I think that happens in the 20s, right? It's kind
Yes.
of towards the end of the 20s, maybe 30s, that people start to figure it out that it's not, I don't want to drive to work and feel like I'm having a heart attack every morning. It's like this anxiety that's so
Yes.
strong, and I've had that before. And the universe obviously didn't want that to happen because the company filed bankruptcy and I lost my job, which was honestly, I was cheering. I wasn't even sad. So I was like, yes, I
Right?
hated that job anyway. No, it's just, I didn't hate it. It was just not, it just was not, I was exhausted all the time and I had no time for a life or to date or to exercise or to do anything self care related.
Right.
And I learned a lot. I grew a lot, not just in the technique and the skill of the job, it was public relations,
Yeah.
but in exactly what I don't want to do.
Mm. Yes. Yes.
And signs that when your body says something, you should listen.
Right. Exactly. Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, I can imagine. Like, do you have an example of a story from someone you've coached through that turning point? You know, they achieved the success. They got, you know, all the position in the company they wanted, the salary they wanted,
Yes.
but yet, um, and then they mentioned, well, I have a family, but I don't see them, or
Right.
I when I'm home, I'm on my, you know, working, and I don't have time to look at what little Susie colored in her coloring book today.
Yes. Oh yeah, the mom guilt is so real. They constantly they say to me that they feel like failing everywhere. They're failing in their
Oh,
personal life. They feel like failing in their professional life. I'm not doing enough, and it never feels enough. Never feels like it's good. And so there was one of my clients. We just finished our journey, and she was just incredible. We journeyed about where that was coming from. It all stemmed from self-worth, feeling like she wasn't
really?
enough. She just wasn't enough. No matter what she did, she wasn't enough. And everything felt like she had to work double hard to prove something to somebody. Who it was, no one knows. Like it was just this, and she used this word that was like brilliant. She said, it's a battle with no one on the other side.
Oh,
I'm fighting a battle with no one on the other side. And that was like, that just summarized everything. And with that realization, we also cleared some of the old trauma that came, why this was there in the first place, using energy healing, and just moved her along. And she's at a place, she got a promotion and she's working less, setting boundaries. She's
right.
setting boundaries. That was one of the missing pieces for her. Wasn't setting enough boundaries. And her kids are about one of her children is already in college. The other one is about to go to college. She's like, all right, this is my last chance with my child, so I'm going to be at home. So
Yeah.
taking time to define that, so incredible.
You know,
And
I want to go. I have to go. I'm so sorry
go
to
go
interrupt,
go.
but I want
No,
to
no,
go
go.
back to this. You talked about her starting to set boundaries. Was this something you recommended to her, or did she just, you know, she kind of worked, came, you guided her to come to this realization on her own? Because it is my belief now, because I used to, with the people that I care about in my life and my friends, I wasn't good at setting boundaries, and I was what the flaky friend, always late, there for everybody. Oh,
Right.
everybody, you know, it's just in kind of, I don't want to say a doormat, but in a way, kind of a doormat.
Yes.
It's an embarrassing thing to admit, but what through therapy, of course, it all was deep rooted in the feeling of not feeling good enough
Right.
that I discovered. This is many years ago, but what I've learned over the years is that when you start setting boundaries,
Right.
that's when there's actual freedom.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't
Yes.
know if this is something that you also discovered at a point you're like, oh crap, if I say no to something, it's like, oh, it actually feels good. It doesn't feel bad.
Yes. Yeah.
And now
Yeah. There
I've
may be
worked
that
through my
initial
own.
discomfort, but
Yeah.
it's okay. It actually is better. I have more freedom. Yeah.
What
With
is
her,
that initial discomfort? What does that come from?
the discomfort of saying no. It's
Yes.
about wanting to be liked. I think most of the women, especially women, I've seen that as mostly with women, and the higher you are achieving, the more they seem to have it, like the sense of like, oh, I want to be. It comes from the place of wanting to be liked and appreciated. but they go about doing it in the wrong way. They overgive and overgive. And especially women in the workplace, right? Like it's very different. It's very different. That's what I'm seeing. Like they have to prove themselves. And if you're showing emotions, then you're too emotional. If you are, like if you're being assertive, you're a B word.
Yes, I know. I know. I've seen that episode of Sex in the City. It's like
Yeah.
it's true. If you're assertive, they say, "Ugh, that woman is such a bee." And if you're emotional and sensitive, then you go, "Oh, she's like no backbone."
Right. Yes.
Which is what
Yeah.
I was told, not to
Yes.
my face, but when I was my first job out of college, a coworker told me that someone had said that about me. And I went home and cried my eyes out, talked to my daddy.
Right.
Like, I
Right?
mean, literally, it's like I was such a daddy's girl and mommy's girl at that time. And I'm like, I would never say that about anyone. But
Yeah.
what the truth of the matter was, is the after talking to him, I sort of opened my eyes and I was able to go to work. And I never really said anything to her about it,
Right.
but I
Yeah.
just sort of wrote down about it. Like, what does that mean? There was no internet back then, so I couldn't Google on YouTube or anything. There was no Google anything back then.
Yeah.
But I did grow up reading a bunch of psychology books because my mom was a psychologist. And so I started looking underneath the hood and learning more about her. All I did was just learn more about her.
Yeah.
Spend time. We went to lunches with a group of people, learned more about her.
Yeah.
She does not have a degree like I do. Some
Right.
people
So
in the
it's
office like
threatening.
me. Some people in the office don't like her. She doesn't know how to communicate very well. What it all boiled down to is I realized she was a little threatened.
Yes. Yes.
And so I just decided, because I was young and I wanted people like me, I just decided to not allow her to feel threatened because we were not doing the similar jobs. I
Yeah.
don't want her job. Don't worry about it.
Right.
It's like, and and she invited me to her wedding, and I still keep in touch with her today.
Wow.
We're not
Wow.
hanging out, but we've still
Right.
kept in touch. So it's it's interesting that less knowledge we have
Yes.
about those things and ourselves, the more stories we try to complete in our heads.
Yes. 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 And humans are so good at that, right? Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we love stories. Everything is a story. The
Yeah.
past is just a story, but we hang on to it. And so I often encourage my clients to keep creating new stories. What do they want? Can we focus on what story do they want to create in their life? And believe that it's possible. So many of these women like forget to dream. They forget to even ask what do they want. It becomes about everybody else.
What is your guidance? What is your guidance for what is the first tip or the first thing you say to one of your clients or one of these high achieving women to get them to the place to be able to do that? I just want to unpack that a little bit, because just that one thing, because this is so many women who have families and children, and then they think, well, I need to spend the time with children, but they forget themselves. They forget to dream for themselves,
Yeah.
not just to get, because they give all their time to work, and then they want to give time to the children,
Family.
then the
Yes.
husband, and then probably stuff around the house if they don't
Right.
have a cleaner or what have you. And what about themselves? Like, how do you get them to hear that and apply it?
It's such a good question, because one of the things, there's obviously different steps, but one thing I often invite them to do is to say, put yourself in the center of the map. Start by asking, where are you in the map? And usually they'd be like, nowhere.
um, well, work is here. Oh no. But what's the look on their face when they realize that and say that to you?
It's usually like, holy cow, like, how did I miss that? It's not, yeah, there's so much in autopilot they don't even know. And when they start to see that they have not honored who they are, and then we go back, this is where I take them on a journey of when did they decide to stop dreaming? When did they decide that their needs are not important? And usually there's a pivotal time, and we journey backwards, and just to go to that time and place where there was an energetic imprint of when they decided what was happening, and then we clear that energetic imprint from the root. It's not about dwelling in the past. It's really about like seeing where did this start, only to clear it. And the beauty of doing that work is like, it's not like you have to go back to all the past events and incidents and stuff like that. When you clear that, it's almost like everything else. It's like a ripple effect. It starts to clear every time you felt that way. It's kind of starting to just wipe that off the slate. It's really incredible. And I was just talking to a client this morning, and this is just the 9th time we're meeting, and she's like, I can't recognize myself. I don't know, like this is 9th or 10th session. I don't know. I can't remember, like probably 8th or I can't, like it's not too long into our journey together. And there's a sense of like, wow, this is different. And then there's like, wow, how did that, like, is this okay? Is it okay to not be stressed right now? Is it okay to like want what I want? And that's the whole thing, right? Like we all have had versions of that. I've had it. It took me so long to say, no, it's okay for me. It's okay if someone doesn't like me. So much of my life was focused around wanting people to like me, right?
Yeah. Having been that same way myself, I understand that feeling. And sometimes, and honestly, what would you, if looking back, and I know this is some of the most ridiculous questions, like, what would you say to that version or that season of Padma? What would you say if it was you and she had you as a guide, like you're guiding so many women now, right, and you found yourself, and what would you tell yourself back then?
Trust yourself. I never trusted my intuition. I'm very, very strong intuitive. That's how I make decisions. And so much of my life was like pushed away. Like I would just rationalize it off, or like not give in, like, just to dismiss it. Mm-hmm. But if I just followed my intuition, accepted my gifts, and the gifts, so much of my life also was like, oh no, I don't have this. Like I think this is the first time I'm admitting that I'm a channel. More like, it's the first time I've actually come out and said it openly, and but it was always scary, right?
No,
scary
because it's the first time you're saying it. But I have a feeling if you were to ask, if your clients were to hear that, they would say, oh yeah.
Right.
I mean, hands down. Just the example you gave right before this with your client that said, it feels different. This feels different. This inside feels different. I'm not afraid or stressed, or I'm not anxious. And that's a wonderful place to bring a woman to. And I think you probably can't do that for someone unless you've understood that journey yourself, which, right, you're humble enough and courageous enough to admit that you have.
Yeah. I mean, we're all on the same path, right? Like we're all beings on the same path. I once saw this meme on Facebook, which was so powerful. It was like this, everybody standing in a line, and at the end of the line, or like right in the front, there's people hanging on, like, basically it's like saying, as soon as you're born, you're on the path to, you have a stamp on you, time stamp on you.
You have the same destination-ish.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And we get to do what we want to do on this path. And that's the only limited thing we have to face, which is a timestamp on all of us. Right. That's the reality, harsh truth. And we go about thinking like, no, there's no end in sight. But that's it. If we just remember that, like, okay, we're here on this journey. What can I do? Anyways, we're all on the same destination, like you said, right?
Right. Right. Same.
Might
We're
as well
going. We're
do this.
going to the same. But I will say that that's not something that becomes very aware to many young people
Mhm.
because they're so new coming out of like oh, poor people in grade school and high school and things are great. You get to kindergarten, everything is creative, and you get into elementary school, and by once third grade comes, they
Oh
start
God.
stifling your creativity, right?
Yes. Yes.
Like
Yes.
that's not the way you do that. That's not the way you do that. It's supposed to be like this. It's like, okay, I must follow all the rules.
Right? Yes, we become so much like robots.
I know.
Yeah. Was it I heard on James' podcast once and he said, how did we come to this place of like having to ask permission to go to the bathroom?
Oh my God. Can I tell you? This is as I experienced this as an adult. As an adult, I had a job. It was after I got laid off, I got a job selling ad space for a magazine because that was pretty much all I could get at the time. It was when the .com bubble
Yeah,
burst,
yeah.
and I guess a lot of people were looking for jobs. And I had no sales experience, but I got the job. And and long story short, I did very good at the job, but it was very regimented. And after a certain period of time, there was a shift. And I want to say the last 6 months I worked there, which is when I started looking for another job, that when you didn't have to ask to go to the bathroom, but you needed to click a button so when you're going to the bathroom so that the manager can check on you to know exactly where you are at all times. You're either on a break or you're in the bathroom or you're on your lunch break and you
Oh
only
my
get two breaks.
God.
I mean, it was literally like da, 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 da. You had to click the button. If you were gone for more than 5 minutes, someone would come looking for you.
Oh my God. Oh my
Ellie, is everything
God.
okay? Are you in there? Okay. Sometimes it takes more than 5 minutes to go to the bathroom, for Christ's sake.
I know.
It just it was actually giving me
Wow.
anxiety to come back to my desk and notice the cup is getting red and getting full for the break button, and if you don't click it, it's just, I mean,
Wow.
that's horrible. They eventually got rid of the system, but it was after I had left. And the first
Wow.
time at my new job, I was sitting there. It was an open office space, really, really small company. And I remember sitting there and I asked, I could see the manager like across. She was like 10 feet from me. And I said, and so for the first week, I would say, is it okay if I go to the restroom? And then it's literally walking distance here. It's in the same building. I'm not going down the hall to another building or anything like that. And so towards the end of the week, one day she just asked me, she's like, Ellie, if you have to go to the bathroom, just go to the bathroom. You don't have to ask me every time. And I realized from the 2 years working at this company, I had been trained
Yes.
to
Right?
ask to go to the bathroom. In
Oh,
college, you don't need to ask. Once you get to college, you don't need to ask, right?
right.
But elementary school, it's almost like this job that I had worked for, they didn't hire people with college degrees. They hired people out of high school or junior
Ah,
college, which makes sense to me now. In hindsight, I could go, oh, they wanted you to be in that control mode coming
right.
in.
Right.
It's just
Yeah,
crazy.
it is.
But
Wow.
but you're right. It's like that podcast reference. Yeah, that is right. Like why do we feel the need to ask permission?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
when we feel fear or anxiety or uncomfortable about doing big things, why do we need permission? Why do we have that sense? And how do we break through it?
Yeah.
How do we break through that?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking
Yeah.
you because I know you know the answer. How do
You
you
know,
break through
it
the need for asking for permission? Because to do you need permission to do a live video? No.
no, no. I think it really comes down to just doing it and seeing
Yeah.
what happens and like keep doing it, making that your new norm
Mm-hmm.
and not the anxiety because we're so again trained to feel a certain way. Our brain goes into that place very
Yeah.
quickly. And it's about making that not normal and this more normal, where you can just, I think it's just about doing it. And also asking. I often invite my clients to go a little bit deeper, like, okay, where is that even coming from? Who in you needs permission? And what if you didn't? What's the fear behind it? Like, if you can just identify what is that fear, then you can let it go. Like, oh, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story.
Oh yeah, tell me.
No, it's a really funny story. So my son, he's 6 years old, and he always asks permission to go to the bathroom. I was like, you don't need permission. You can just go. So he looks at me and says, does that mean I don't need your permission to eat chocolate anymore? I know, but I was like, wow, but this is, it's a joke, but also like, this is so important as when you're raising kids, to like start to have them think they don't, it's a tricky balance. They don't need rules. They need rules for safety, but they don't need rules. How can we let them be? And you nailed it, right? Third grade, you're like robots.
Yeah, it's just, that's when it's like they want to try to get you. But it's funny. I love the story you shared about your son, because if I go back, I remember being a kid, my parents, they didn't have things like chocolate, cookies and these things in the house. Our house, as you know, like you have the Indian culture, you probably have your own desserts. We have the Persian culture. We had pistachios in the freezer, which I wish we had now. A bag like this big of a bag of pistachios in the freezer. Always vanilla ice cream, because and actually there is vanilla ice cream in our freezer now. And what else? During Persian New Year, once a year, and the holidays, we get these like little honey style Persian desserts. We didn't get a lot of, and a few other things that were typical Persian that my grandfather would make or my grandmother make. But we didn't have the, go to school. My dessert for school lunch was whatever fruit was in the bag.
Right.
No, whatever these Twinkies or ding dongs or any. My parents didn't buy this stuff.
Right.
They didn't even buy the sugared cereal. We would get Raisin Bran Post because it didn't have the sugared raisins.
Nice.
And nice when you're older, but when you're younger, you just want the sugar. Give me the sugar. All my friends have cookies and things at their house, and I literally go to their house. I'm like, can I have a cookie? Yeah, go ahead. Anytime you want. I'm like, really? I'm like, yeah. So you think you're going to want all the, and my parents would say, with the ice cream, when I would eat the ice cream, I would just take the whole thing out, and I liked when the sides melt, so I would just, make the volcano and just eat around the sides. And my parents would say, Ellie June, how many times do you have to tell you do not eat? Just get a bowl, scoop it, and then eat it. And I'm like, but I want to eat it, and they're like, when you grow up, you can do it like that. Do you know how I eat ice cream now? I get this tiny little bowl, and I take one scoop of ice cream and put it in. It's not even a bowl. It's actually for condoms. That's how small it is. It's not even a legit ice cream bowl. I put one scoop in there, and I let myself eat that. Because if I have a bowl of ice cream, I'm going to eat the whole bowl.
Right.
You get older, it's like you self-sanction yourself.
I know, right?
I could sit there and eat from the carton, but I know that I will not like it a few hours later.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, you could probably tell your son, you can have all the chocolate you want without my permission when you grow up. But what happens is, as he grows up, he'll probably sanction his chocolate.
Yep. Yeah. They already parrot me so much that they don't understand, but they'd be like, sugar is bad for you. I'm like, okay.
Oh.
My 3-year-old tells, no chocolate. Chocolate does not have sugar, apparently.
No. And there's no fat, and there's no caffeine. Dark chocolate's good.
I know, right? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny. So do you ever, like you just said, your kids parrot you so much. Do you ever catch them saying something or doing something that you do, but you didn't realize you did it until you saw it in them?
Yeah. They say things like, they're my best teachers. They're such fabulous teachers. They're like, don't get angry. Okay, mama, don't get angry. You're getting angry now. You said you wouldn't get angry at us. Angry is not good for you. You promised us. It's really amazing when they call me on my stuff. You're getting angry now. And I'm like, all right, you are right. I am. All right.
Oh my gosh. See, that's what my husband does for me. Because I don't have kids, but I have the husband. I'm like, you're getting loud. You said you weren't going to get loud. I'm not loud. I'm just intensified.
I like that intensified.
I'm passionate.
And my son will go, Mama, do this, okay? Take a deep breath, okay? Like
Oh
make
my
me.
God. They take deep breaths.
And they parrot all affirmations. I read in this book, it was so great. It was really great. And I teach this to my clients too. He talks about how do you change your beliefs, right? Like how do you change, like how do you not let these beliefs remain beliefs?
Yeah.
And how do you start them young, especially when you have young kids? And he said every day he would ask them, what are they grateful for? Whichever, which is a common theme. But then he'll ask them, what do you love about yourself? And I thought that was
So
really
good.
brilliant, right? Like how many times do we say, what do I love about myself? And he
Oh
said, if
my
you have,
God. Why don't we do that every morning?
right? Yeah. And he said, if your child cannot answer it, you look at them and you say something that they were, not just what they did, but like anything, maybe they were kind to one another, or like they said something nice or did something nice. Like focus on who they were being and share that with them. Oh, I really loved how you were this way, or how you showed up here, or what you said. So I thought that was really beautiful, right? Like it allows you, because we're going to F up. My kids, I cannot be the perfect parent, and they are not perfect children. So
Is there such thing?
no, there isn't. But there is, because I know so much. One of my biggest fears, I had kids very late in life. One of my biggest fears, which is why I didn't have kids, was I'm going to screw them up.
Yeah.
Because like how much, like all the past has made an imprint. I was like, oh my god, like I'm going to do something like that to my kids. And I see that even in my 3-year-old. She just spilled something big time the other day, and I was like, oh, and I was like, why did you like do that? And she looked at me with these big eyes, and I was like, oh my god, oh no, here's how the imprint is happening. Let's clear that out right now. And I'm like, no, it's okay. It's just spill. We'll clean it up. Not a big deal. And then I apologized. And even though she's just 3, but this is how the repair happens. It's not about being perfect, but it's about making the repair. And then when you do that every day, even with your own self, like, what do you love about yourself? It makes a huge difference. We can shift out of things very quickly. The problem happens when it festers and it remains in your system, and then then the belief gets reinforced. So
Right.
whatever that belief was, I'm making a mistake, or what, I can't, I'm clumsy, or whatever her belief might have been that was about to get imprint, I can erase that very quickly.
I love that. I've never heard anyone describe it as an imprint, by the way, but that's
Oh,
exactly what it is. It's imprinted. The experience and the emotion behind the experience at the time is what imprints it into the brain, correct?
right. Yes.
Because it's hard to imprint something that doesn't come along with an emotional feeling that's happening right at that time that it happens.
Right.
And sometimes it's a shame or fear.
Yes.
It's because a kid could just as easily spill some, like, here's what happens is just like you said, the kid spills a glass of milk, whatever,
Right.
or their bowl of food. A parent has you can either freak out and, oh my god, it's the end of the world, and that's what that child will feel every single time, and they will go on to reflect that in everything in life. The proverbial bowl of milk, it could be a project at work. It doesn't go well, and it's, oh my god, the project didn't go, it's the end of the world, just because of that one experience, right?
Yes.
Whereas
Oh my
other
God, you
people,
summarized it beautifully.
thank
Yes.
you. But no, it's only because you brought this up. It totally triggered this idea that I haven't thought about too much before, but I've seen it happen. That's why that happens in the conflict happens in these work environments, is because of a lot of times these underlying things.
Yes.
Whereas if you can change that imprint, then when a project goes awry, or a parent decide at the time to say, oh, the child goes, oh no, I spilled it. It's like, you know what? It's okay. We could just clean it up. plenty of bowls in the world. There's just one you. And,
Yes.
that's fine. And and so what ends up happening is that child grows up, goes to work or their own business or becomes a leader. And when problems and stuff goes wrong, because things always go wrong in business, everyone, right? They will not always, but they will. Something will go wrong at some point. I won't say
Right.
always because I don't like always as the nevers, but something will go wrong at some point, and we have a like we will have a imprint or a reactionary imprint to say, okay, this happened. How can we solve this problem? What's the best way?
Right. Right.
Or
Yes.
then you have the other people that are just like, he did it, she did it, not my fault. That doesn't solve problems.
But that also comes from some experience they've had, right? Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be in trouble because being in trouble
Mm-hmm.
means something is wrong with me. And it is so, yeah,
It
you,
goes back to not good enough.
yeah,
If I made a mistake, I'm not good enough.
right. Yeah.
I'm unworthy, which is not true. It has nothing to do. Mistakes happen. I tell my
God.
students this all the time. If you didn't make mistakes, how would I be able to help you? You wouldn't need a degree. You would already know everything.
I love that. Yeah. You summarized it so beautifully. That's exactly what happens.
Thank you. Thank you.
But we
Well,
forget, right? Like we don't know where that
yeah.
started. And
Yeah.
once you can uncover that, we're like, oh, it makes so much sense. This is why I do what I do. And now I don't
But
have to
that's
do it.
hard. That's hard for people to break that pattern and get to it on their own.
Right.
And here you have just really, I think it sounds like you've helped so many people with this.
Yeah.
Not just as being a channel. Yes, you're a channel, but it sounds like you're not a pushing people in a way that because you're a channel, it allows you to use, the 20 plus years
Yes.
of psychiatry practice and working with so many different people, and also the healing side, and not just that, the things that you've experienced yourself in your own life, the challenges you've overcome, like these are all part of your training to
Right.
let you do what you do now.
Right. Right. Yeah. You summarized it absolutely. That when I'm sitting with that person, it allows me to be an open channel for all that information to come through that's specific for them.
That's amazing. That
Yeah.
is amazing. Well, what is the biggest wish that you have for your clients? Your heart.
Freedom, inner freedom, because when you feel free on the inside, you can do anything. And what's amazing about most people who seek me out is they have a deeper purpose that they want to accomplish that's beyond them, beyond their family. Yes, like that they want to make all these changes in their personal life, but there's a deeper impact.
Right.
And that comes
Not
when you
just
feel
high
free.
achievers.
No,
High achievers who want to
impact.
sort of make this deep heart-centered impact in something that's important, that puts that ripple effect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, freedom, inner freedom. I think that is a fantastic wish and thing that you would have for your clients. I love that. But I've actually never heard somebody say that. I've heard inner peace, but freedom leads to peace, because I don't think you can have maybe one without the other.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
You can have
Yeah.
peace for a minute, but then as soon as you're like meditating, and then you come out of it, and then you have still the rest of your day.
Right. Right. And also freedom, what it does is it makes them resourceful, right? In inner
Right.
resources, like, because we don't need, it's not about resources, but it's being resourceful. When you're resourceful, you can find a solution for everything. When I was very sick, right? Like the doctors told me the only solution, I was 25, I think, at that time. And they
You
said,
were really
I
young.
was very young. And the only solution was to do a colectomy, which is basically taking out your colon and attaching a poop bag. Being very gross here, but like,
I know what that is, actually. I haven't done it, but I know what it is.
yeah. So it's like that
Permanently?
permanently. That was it. That was the only
At
solution I
25? Oh, yeah,
at
I'm so
25.
very, very loud, but at 25? Oh, no.
And they said no kids. It could probably never have kids. And at that point I was like, I don't even know if I want kids right now, like forget kids, right? But it was like everything was like no, no, no. But when I found that but when I could feel that inner resourcefulness, solutions appeared. no one would even no one could even imagine. I remember this so clearly. This doctor called me. I don't know what I was doing at that point. He called me and he said, how are you even walking? Get yourself to a hospital right now because you need blood transfusion. You are so anemic. But from that place to here and having two very healthy children at what they call as advanced maternal age. I'm 44 right now. So,
Well, yeah, anything over 35 is advanced.
right? Yeah, but I'm
That
44
needs to
and like,
change people.
I know, right? Come on. Like we're living in a different place right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could not have felt more healthier than I am, but it's because of that. When you feel resourcefulness inside, if that's even a word like that, you can find solutions anywhere, anytime.
Well, like you said, when you bring your clients to having this inner freedom, then it kind of gets all that other stuff out of the way to keep them from looking for that resourcefulness.
Yes.
That's what it sounds like, which is amazing because like problem solvers, we were talking about that before. It's this, are we looking for solutions or are we looking for problems? And when things are muddled up inside, it does cause us to try to find the answers as to why, and almost, I don't want to say a victim mentality mindset, but it's easier to point fingers as to why this happened, or this has happened because of this and this is because of this. But if you kind of find this inner freedom, it's easier to take ownership over things
Yes.
and then let them go.
Yes. Yes.
Oh yeah, this happened for me because of this thing that happened when I was very young.
Right.
Well, I was 7 years old. 7-year-olds don't know any different.
Right. And then you're also forgiving yourself for the day-to-day stuff. I mean, I just yelled at my kids today, right? Like, and then if it was another place, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm screwing them up, and mom guilt. Like, I don't have to hold on to any of them. Like, all right, I messed up, I'm going to apologize and just move on. Like, we're not harboring and adding to that imprint over and over and over, solidifying it. Yeah.
They say actually relationships with couples and relationships with parents and children, this is a communication thing, that if you take care to have those difficult, messy conversations right then and there, they don't become passive aggressive comments in the future. And the relationships that are, get used to and practice having the difficult conversations from arguments or moments or what have you, like those are the ones that really last in a happier way.
Right. Yes. Communication is so key.
Which actually brings me to the question that I ask all of my guests is, how do you define communication and what does it mean to you?
Oh my God, communication is everything. In my life as a psychotherapist, I used to work with couples. I specialized in working with couples, and it's such an important piece. Oh my God. Communication between people, but also inner communication. For me, what are you telling yourself? What words am I using? I saw this somewhere, or I might have made it up. It said, be careful what you say to yourself because you are listening to your own self.
Yeah.
We're listening inside, and communication is everything. Everything. You said it so beautifully. If we can take care of things right then and there, it doesn't become this big thing. It doesn't result in disconnect and discord.
Right. Because people do keep score.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Check. Okay, he did this. Check. Okay, this happened again. Check. But if you never say anything, or even the kids, if they keep doing something, you don't say anything. But I loved what you said about the inner communication. That what are we saying to ourselves? I love that quote because you are listening to yourself, and you said something that I'd never really thought of before. That idea of what do you love about yourself?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we should all be asking ourselves that every day, not
Yeah.
constantly asking, how can I improve myself? What can I do better? Because I think we're good, especially
Oh my
entrepreneurs, the
God.
women you work with, they are good at asking themselves, what can I do to be better? I mean, that's the reason they're paying you, for goodness sakes,
Right. I
because
know.
they want to be better. But maybe throwing it back and just saying, get in the habit of saying, what do I love about myself today?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we do
It's
that, we're
so
able to
beautiful.
love and connect with others and communicate with others. I think that's really powerful, and I'm going to write that down. That's definitely coming away with
Yeah, I
me.
can't take credit for that. I read it in this book
I
and
know,
it
but
was
I
so
can give you
beautiful.
credit because you shared it with me, and I would not have known if you didn't share it with me. So, in my heart and mind, I'm giving you credit.
Oh.
So, thank you, Padma. I think it's wonderful. Well, I do want to honor your time. I could go like another couple hours here, but where can our fellow watchers and those watching the podcast find you and follow you on your social media? Share what you're working on next, your podcast, all that fun stuff.
Yeah. So on Instagram, it's just everything is just Padma Ali. If you just search for Padma Ali, you'll find it at
Padma
Padma
Ali.
Ali,
You're Padma
and
Ali everywhere.
pretty much. And in Facebook, I'm coaching with Padma. And oh yeah, okay.
Oh, right there. Okay.
um, And what I'm working on right now, I'm mostly just doing one-on-one work at this time. I am in the process of working on a group program specifically related to relationships and money, because I think that's a lot of struggle most people are having, especially being in such close proximity. It's
Yeah.
creating a lot of, it's amplifying or highlighting where couples are struggling. And since that's something I've done for so
That's
long, I
actually
wanted
a
to bring
really
that.
good. Are you doing, is it a monthly training or a live workshop or
It's going to be
one-on-one
probably like 6
or couple
week.
coaching?
It would be
One-on-one?
like, and no, I'm not working with, I'm not doing couples coaching as such, but I thought of offering like a group program. It's still in my mind. It hasn't yet
Hmm.
manifested on the outside
That's
as
a
yet.
that is freaking fantastic, because one of the biggest things that ends a marriage is financial, the way people deal with finances differently,
Yeah.
and everybody does do this differently because of how they were raised and their experiences, and you know not one person is better than the other, but everybody's different. My husband and I are very different.
Yeah.
My mother and my father were very different,
Right. Yes.
with money, and it if they don't know how to communicate through it, then yeah, that can, especially like you said, in this time where everybody's together in the same house and some people have lost their jobs or
Right.
furloughed,
Exactly.
this is a big deal. Like this is something that could really, really help
Yeah.
couples. I say just do a beta and get it out there.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking, like doing like some kind of a program soon. It's still brewing in my head,
Still
but
brewing. Awesome. So if you're going to announce it, would this be something you might announce on your Instagram
yes,
account? So you
everywhere.
guys, her Instagram is actually scrolling across the bottom of the screen. It's at Padma Ali. If you follow me on Instagram, you can actually link to her directly from my posts, and make sure that you're following her and watching her stories. She has fantastic stories. She shares so many great things. She even features her adorable kids sometimes, which I love because it makes me feel like I live right next to her. Oh my gosh. And you're such a cute mom. I especially love the dancing.
Oh,
You're
yes.
dancing in the room. I'm a fan of that. So more dance sessions, please. And
Yeah.
Padma, thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so
being a
much.
guest today. It's been such an honor. For everyone that is watching the rebroadcast or the live, I want to thank you, and as always, wish you communication for success, health, and happiness. Ciao for now.
Thank you, Ellie.
Thank you.